Welcome back to CryptosRus. I am George. We're all George. We could actually get a 50 basis point cut next week. Okay, right now, the percentage is still quite low. Let me bring it up. 11.8% for 50 basis point cut. But if we somehow see inflation slowing down or ticking down, man, we're going to get that 50 basis point cut. So a lot of that data to digest later this week. Quite interesting. Quite interesting. All right, moving forward. What else? Let's see. Michael Saylor. Unfortunately, his company got snubbed from the S&P 500, but he doesn't really care about that. He's going to continue to accumulate Bitcoin, another 1,955 Bitcoin, 217 million. And now he holds 638,000 Bitcoin. That's a lot. That's a lot of Bitcoin. MetaPlanet also purchased 15.2 million in Bitcoin. I mean, again, it should be no surprise. Every week, these guys are going to accumulate hundreds, tens to hundreds of millions of dollars worth of Bitcoin, sometimes billions. It's not going to stop. El Salvador celebrates Bitcoin milestone with a 21 Bitcoin purchase. They have been purchasing every day, one Bitcoin every day, and they're up to like $400 million worth of Bitcoin just by DCAing every single day. Now, obviously, most of us can't DCA one Bitcoin per day. That would be ridiculous. But you could do smaller amounts. You could do 0.1 Bitcoin a day, or 0.01 Bitcoin a day, or 0.0001 a day. You know, you get the point. Just depends on your income level. All of us could DCA. And that's been the winning strategy, honestly. Just holding and DCA, especially when it comes to Bitcoin. You have another company that have rebranded themselves as Africa Bitcoin Corp. And now they have $210 million, or they plan on raising that for Bitcoin treasury. And again, we see this all the time now. New treasury companies being created for just Bitcoin. But now we're starting to hear for ETH and Sol and others too. We never had this happen before, guys. Never, ever in previous cycles where we had like new companies creating treasury companies solely based on purchasing Bitcoin. Even Saylor and Strategy before, in the last cycle, they would do that, but he would say, you know, they're still a business intelligence company. Now it's different. Now it's just a Bitcoin company, Bitcoin treasury company, and Bitcoin services. You don't even hear about the business intelligence side anymore. But yeah, it's quite amazing to hear about every single week. We get someone new, okay? And it's adding to the supply shock because there's only so many to go around. So last week, we saw about 10,000 Bitcoin removed from circulation, being bought, 3 new treasuries with 1,500 Bitcoin, right? And there's 6 more planning on buying $136.7 million. That's a lot. That's a lot. Every single week, and yet last week wasn't a great week either. But still, you had 10,000 Bitcoin bought and removed from circulation. So anyone that's still like worried or complaining about how Bitcoin's not going up, just give it time. Okay? Give it time. It's not going to go up forever every single day. It may go up forever, but you got to give it time sometimes. We do have a gap to fill. And that's somewhere between 113.7 and 117, let's just say. Okay, big gap to fill. Looks like we may be filling that gap soon, the way we have started the day. So gaps are, I guess, not always a bad thing. We do have gaps to the upside too, but we know we'll fill all gaps to the upside because Bitcoin will just one day just go up to basically infinite dollar price. So all gaps to the upside will be filled. I don't know about downside. Upsides, yes, for sure. And right now, we are still following this pattern from 2017. Yeah, we're not mimicking the 2021 cycle. It's for sure we're not mimicking it because 2021 was just a really weird cycle. We had a 50% drop mid-year, probably due to FTX and other shenanigans from SBF. And also, that was a year when we started aggressively rate hiking, and it was announced very early, so our cycle got disrupted because of that. 2021 was just a weird cycle. But 2017 was a more normal cycle, and we're really moving along very similarly, although the volatility is much, much smaller. In 2017, like literally every single month, you have like a 35% drop. No joke. Go back and look at the charts. This time around, our most volatile times, about 15%, 10, 15%. We don't have 35% drops. That'd be ridiculous now, especially at our level. And I don't think people can handle that. They don't have the stomach for it. So luckily, that has not been happening. But we are following it very similarly. And that would mean the last few months, we make that parabolic swing to the upside. And that's exactly what Tom Lee thinks. Okay, now he's been pretty bullish for a long time. Sometimes he makes wild predictions, but other times he makes a lot of sense. Now he gives a prediction why Bitcoin could head to 200,000 by year end, not just because based on the cycle or anything. There's one particular reason Bitcoin could head to 200,000 by year end,
listen
not
to
just
it.
because based on the cycle or anything. There's one.
Tom, Bitcoin, before we let you go, tell us what you think. We're at about $111,000. The upside, the downside from here?
Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies like Ethereum are super sensitive to monetary policy. So I think that September 17th is an important catalyst. Crypto typically does really well in the fourth quarter. So I think Bitcoin can easily get to 200,000 before year end. I know it's a big move. It's almost a double. But that's also going to be a
double from
for...
here. Let's just, hold on. Let's just take a quick pause. A double from here. So everybody's listening to this. We're at $111,000, and you think we, by Christmas time, effectively, we could be at 200,000?
That's right. One of the reasons Bitcoin stalled this year is the Fed's been on pause for 9 months. That pause all year, if you look at an easing cycle, that's only happened 2 other times, in 1998 and 2024, where the Fed began to resume cuts in the fourth quarter in September. Equities do really well. As you know, crypto is beta to equity. So I think it's going to be a very strong fourth quarter. Small caps should also rally, like IWM, but that also is really bullish for Ethereum, which is highly linked to small caps.
So you heard it here first. Well, I guess, no, you didn't hear it here first. But you heard it here. Tom Lee says that we are probably going to double to at least 200,000. Okay? Because of monetary policy. It's really that simple. We have 3 rate cuts coming. We had this long 9-month pause. Okay? Many argue that Powell should have cut earlier, but whatever. And we may get a 50 basis point cut next week. Equities do well. Small caps do well. That means altcoin season continues. And of course, Bitcoin does well. So that starts next week, guys. Depending on the numbers I've said at the beginning, that's going to come out Wednesday and Thursday. That may give us a 50 basis point cut, and then we get another cut in October, and then another cut in December. That's a 1 basis point cut. Equities, crypto, Bitcoin could all skyrocket from here.